Welcome to the Asia-Pacific Stats Café Series. My name is Subhanaratai, and I am an associate statistician at the Statistics Division at ESCAP, and your moderator for today's Stats Café session, which focuses on the Asia and the Pacific regional trends on forced displacement and statelessness. And today's Stats Cafe, we're co-organizing with our wonderful colleagues from the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR. And we're delighted to have Mr. Hai Shallow, Head of Protection Service from the Regional Bureau for Asia and the Pacific, UNHCR, here with us today to deliver some opening remarks alongside our Chief of Population and Social Statistics Section, Statistics Division, ESCAP, Ms. Petronamias. We're also pleased to have great speakers from UNHCR, the European Union Agency for Asylum, as well as the Agency of Statistics under the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, who will share with us details and insights on the latest trend for forced displacement, statelessness, and efforts in integrating statelessness to the Census questionnaire. Our colleague from Uzbekistan will present in Russian, but our colleague from UNHCR, Ms. Bajan Ozabaya, apologies if I mispronounced that, kindly agreed to help out with consecutive interpretation from Russian to English. On your screen right now, let me move to the next slide, is the agenda for today, and we will start off with opening remarks, followed by presentations by our three speakers and a Q&A session. So without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Petronamias to deliver her opening remarks. The floor is yours, Petra.
Thank you, Roth. And I'd like to join Roth in welcoming everyone to our Stats Cafe session today, where we're going to be delving into the critical and pressing topic of forced displacement and statelessness statistics. In a world where displacement and statelessness have become a harsh reality for tens, if not hundreds of millions of people, understanding the numbers behind this phenomenon is essential. In this cafe, we have a number of stimulating and interesting presentations which explore further the data and uncover insights into both the trends and prevalence of displacement and statelessness, as well as how those statistics might be sustainably produced by national authorities. Through these discussions, we hope to strengthen the evidence base to allow us to inform policies and move towards improved and durable solutions. As ESCAP Statistics Division, we're glad to support our colleagues at UNHCR and other agencies to work to include these vulnerable populations in official statistical systems at both the national and regional levels. We know that significant barriers to full inclusion of displaced and stateless people still exist, and we hope that events such as this can be an important tool to moving this agenda forward. So since we have a busy schedule and lots to cover, I'll keep my remarks short, and with no further ado, I'll hand back to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra, for those kind words. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Hai Shallow to provide some opening remarks. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And as was mentioned, my name is Hai Shallow. I'm the head of the Protection Service for UNHCR's Regional Bureau for Asia and the Pacific. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing this session reviewing the 2022 trends on forced displacement and statelessness. Let me take this opportunity to again thank the ESCAP Stats Café organizers for this opportunity. UNHCR covers 45 countries in the Asian Pacific region, including countries in Central Asia. The 2022 regional reporting we are discussing today presents key statistical trends and the latest official statistics on forced displacement and statelessness. The report is published once a year and reflects on trends over the past year. The figures are based on data reported by governments, non-government organizations, and also compiled by UNHCR. The total number of people who are forced displaced, stateless, or returnees, or as well as others of concern to UNHCR in Asia and the Pacific, by the end of 2022 stood at 14.3 million persons. This was a 28% increase from the prior year of 2021. There were 6.6 million refugees, 5 million conflict-affected internally displaced persons, 2.5 million stateless persons, including displaced stateless persons, 778,600 IDP returnees, 233,300 asylum seekers, as well as some 6,900 refugee returnees in the Asian-Pacific region. The region hosts 18% of the world's refugees and asylum seekers and 56% of the world's stateless population. The two largest displacement situations in the region are the first, the Afghan refugee population, which continues to be the largest in the region, and the third largest refugee population globally. It comprises 5.7 million refugees and people in refugee-like situations, hosted by 102 countries. Myanmar is the second largest country of origin for refugees in Asia and the Pacific, and the sixth largest in the world. I want to acknowledge some data gaps and weaknesses at the outset of this discussion linked to what we will be presenting today. Data is particularly challenging for certain population groups, which often fall off the grid, including refugees and stateless persons. In the Asia-Pacific region, UNHCR works together with other UN agencies on the inclusion of displaced and stateless persons in national censuses and surveys by improving the capacity of national statistics offices and providing training and consultation on forced displacement and statelessness matters. Progress has been made in Pakistan in particular regarding Afghan refugees and in the Central Asian countries regarding stateless populations, and therefore our statistical information has improved. Inclusion of forcibly displaced and stateless persons is a crucial response to have a reliable and timely and comparable information to improve the well-being of these vulnerable populations. And we advocate for improvements in statistical collection, data collection. On that note, let me turn it back to the organizers and wish all of us a fruitful hour. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shallow. And with that, we're now on to our next session, which is a presentation by Mr. Chao Huang, Statistics and Data Analysis Officer from the Regional Bureau for Asia and the Pacific, UNHCR. Mr. Huang has previously worked for UNHCR in Denmark and Pakistan, and before joining UNHCR, he was working in academia. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Chao Huang to the floor to deliver his presentation.
Thank you so much. Good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to present the UNHCR Asia and the Pacific Regional Trends Report 2022 on the forced displacement and the statelessness. So there are 14.3 million people who are forcibly displaced, stateless, returnees, and other of concern to UNHCR in the region of Asia and the Pacific at the end of 2022. And from the map, we can find that there are 4 countries in the region with more than 1 million people UNHCR protects and assists. Those countries are Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Myanmar. And if we look at the trends in the last 10 years, there has been a steady increase since 2013, with the highest number on record in 2022. Almost double the level a decade ago. Also, the 14.3 million is 13% of the global total population UNHCR protects and assists. The bar chart on the left shows some more detailed data by different population groups. I'll just summarize and highlight some key statistics here. In total, there are 7 million refugees, people in refugee-like situations, and asylum seekers, which is 18% of the population category globally. And we also have 2.5 million stateless persons, which is 56% of the global stateless population. This aggregate data by the age and the sex reflects some interesting statistics as well. From the demographic data available, we can see that among the total 14.3 million, women and children took a large proportion at 74%. And moreover, if we focus on the proportion of children, we can see that up to 50% of the 14.3 million were children, and which is almost the double compared to the proportion of children in the region, where children make up to 27% of the region's general population. Let's dive more deeply to the specific population groups. For people who are refugees or the people in the refugee-like situations, we can say the Afghanistan refugee population continues to be the largest in the region and the third largest refugee population globally. As Hai already mentioned, there are in total 5.7 million refugees and people in refugee-like situations hosted by 102 countries. And Myanmar was the second largest country of origin for refugees in Asia and Pacific, and also it's the sixth largest in the world. And the SDG indicator 1074 is a useful way also to identify the countries of origin with the most refugees relative to their numbers of inhabitants. This indicator has been calculated by the proportion of the country's population who became refugees, and also that include the people in refugee-like situation. So the countries that have seen the largest proportion of their national population becoming refugees are Afghanistan, which means for every 100,000 Afghan people, 12,000 of them are forced to flee across international borders. And let's look at from another perspective in countries of asylum for refugees and people in refugee-like situation. And then Iran was the largest refugee hosting countries in the Asia-Pacific region, and also the second largest globally. In Iran, there are 3.4 million refugees and the people in refugee-like situation, and the majority of them are Afghans. Pakistan is the second largest refugee hosting countries in the region and fifth globally. There's also a relative perspective to look at the refugee and the people in refugee-like hosting countries, which is to compare the size of the refugee population, including people in refugee-like situations, with the inhabitants of the host country. This indicator was also defined as a Global Compact on Refugees, or GCR complementary indicator, and it provides an important perspective to appreciate the full magnitude of the pressure felt by the countries. This indicator was calculated by the number of the refugees per 1,000 de facto inhabitants. And then we can say for Iran, it means every 1,000 inhabitants in Iran, 39 of them would be refugees or people in refugee-like situation. For asylum seekers, we analyzed the trend of the flows during the year 2022. We can see from the chart that the people from Asia-Pacific region seeking international protections and submitted applications in many European countries. Specifically for Afghan, up to 147,900 of the new individual applications were lodged in Europe. I would not spend too much on this because our next speaker, our colleagues from EUAA, will give us a full picture on that. The internally displaced persons, or IDPs, account for more than 40% of all forcibly displaced people in the region of Asia Pacific. Please note that UNHCR only reports the IDPs affected by conflict and violence, Afghanistan and Myanmar are the two countries with most IDPs at the end of 2022. We observed in 2022, there were over 1 million newly displaced people in Myanmar. But at the same time, there are also some IDPs returned to their home. That's why the net increase is not that many. This also explains why we observed a decrease for the stock figures in Afghanistan, because there are more IDP returnees than the newly displaced people during the year. For stateless persons, the Asia-Pacific region hosts 2.5 million, or 56% of the world's recorded stateless population. Also, please note, stateless people can also be forcibly displaced, so they might have double status, like refugee stateless or IDP stateless, etc. And from the map, for each country, there are three figures here. The black one is the total number for the stateless persons, and the blue one is a non-displaced stateless, with the orange one is for the displaced stateless. And we can also see that Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Thailand are the top three countries with stateless people. However, the number of the stateless people remains an underestimate, as many countries don't report data on the statelessness. There are two major situations in the region: Afghanistan situation and the Myanmar situation. I'm not going to read out all of the statistics on the slide. Just want to highlight that those data presents that for all of the 9.2 million forcibly displaced Afghans globally, the majority, or 92% of them, stayed in the region. And particularly those Afghans who are forcibly displaced stayed in the three Southwest Asia countries, Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan itself. For Myanmar situation, actually it reflects a similar trend, that the vast majority of the displaced people remained in our region. So UNHCR has a mandate to support and assist the forcibly displaced and stateless people. UNHCR's response covers several different sectors, such as protection, nutrition, health, livelihood, its education, etc. But sustainable solutions requires more than that. It could not be overemphasized the importance of inclusion of forcibly displaced and stateless people in the national systems, particularly the statistical inclusion, because the reliable, timely, and comparable data and evidence are critical to enable the government to implement policies and create development plans that benefit forcibly displaced people and host community. Fortunately, there have been international statistical standards developed for refugees, IDPs, stateless peoples. Those standards were developed by the expert group on refugees, IDPs, and the stateless statistics, or IGRIS. And those standards provide clear guidance to countries on how to better include the forcibly displaced and stateless persons in their national statistical system. And also UNHCR and ESCAP are working together on more capacity buildings on this topic, and which can be expected in early 2024. So for more details, please download the full report with the link on the screen. I'm also put the link in the chat, which is easier for the participants to have access to. And I will stop here, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Chao, and thank you for presenting some very interesting insights and trends on the situation in Asia and Pacific. Colleagues, everyone can, while listening to the presentation, you're more than welcome to type in your question if you have any into the chat. We will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of, towards the end of the sessions as well. So you're more than welcome to turn on your camera and ask your question, or raise your hand and ask your question then. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Nicola Wumerlin. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Information Officer data analysis from the European Union Agency for Asylum to deliver his presentation. Nicola, could you try and take control of the slide? Nicola? Yeah, perfect.
Yes. Hi. So good morning from me. Good afternoon for you. My name is Nicola Vermeulen.
Move to the next slide, I think. Yeah.
Yes. There we go.
Perfect.
So my name is Nicola Vermeulen, and I'm a data analyst indeed in the Situational Awareness Unit of EUAA, so the EU Asylum Agency. I will give you a presentation today on asylum applications in the EU+, which is the EU including Norway and Switzerland, with a specific focus on Afghanistan. This presentation is done with official data from Eurostat, as well as provisional data from the EUA itself, which is subject to change. We take this data as well to have the latest available data. We do have some data missing from two member states, but the period for this data will be from June 2022 to August 2023. It's also important that according to EUA data dissemination policy, this data is limited and it's meant only for internal use, so it can't be disseminated to the open public or other stakeholders. It's just intended for this presentation specifically. So with that, let's delve into the data. This slide shows the main countries of origin of application in the past 12 months in the EU+ as a whole. So you can see that Syria is in first place, but Afghanistan is in second place. The total number of asylum applications in the EU+ for this period was close to 1,100,000, which was 37% higher actually than the previous period of 12 months. So in the past 12 months, like I said, Afghanistan ranked second. In the previous period, Afghanistan was actually ranked first. There's a total of 133,000 Afghan applicants in this period, which is 8% more than the previous periods. And Afghanistan actually accounted for 12% of the EU total of asylum applications in this specific period. Then if we go specific to only Afghan applications and we look at in which member states these applications were lodged, we see that a bit more than 70% of the applications were actually lodged in either Germany, France, or Austria. 38% was in Germany. Then another 20% was in Switzerland, Belgium, Bulgaria, or Greece. So summing up, 90% of Afghan asylum applications were registered in one of these only 7 countries. The numbers are quite a bit lower in the other EU+ countries. The volume of applications was subject to some changes, especially in the aftermath of the Taliban takeover in the middle of August 2021. Numbers increased significantly for the next 5 months, reaching a peak in September with more than 18,000 applications per month. From the beginning of 2022, the numbers began to stabilize between 8,000 and 10,000 per month. But from the summer of 2022, the number of Afghan applications started to rise again, actually, to go even higher than the second half of 2021. In the past 12 months, applications from Afghans increased in all the main countries of destination of the EU+, except for Bulgaria and Belgium, where it decreased somewhat, and Greece, where there was a stable trend. So for the top 5 receiving countries, Austria, Bulgaria, France, Germany, and Switzerland, you can see a chart on the right-hand side showing the evolution of the past 12 months. Applications in Germany and France, the first and second receiving countries, rose by quite a bit, while in Austria it rose by 50% in this period. In Switzerland it rose to close to 80%. And in relative terms, applications actually doubled in Cyprus and Ireland, but these are much lower numbers than the top 5. So in this next slide, we will look a bit closer into the profile of Afghan applicants in the EU+. On the left-hand side, we have a chart with our own EUA data. On the right-hand side, we have Eurostat data. So the left-hand side shows the share of repeated applications, and the proportion of those claiming to be unaccompanied minors. So in terms of repeated applications, we actually see that the inflow consists mainly of first-time applicants, although a sizable share was repeated, 7%, which is this share is almost doubled compared to the previous 12 months. So we do have an increase in repeated applications. This number was also the highest of the top 10 of countries requesting for asylum in the EU+. So it is quite high. Then in the same period, 13% of all applications claimed to be UAMs. When their applications was lodged, which is a stable trend. These numbers are, however, likely to represent an underestimate of the actual numbers of unaccompanied minors, given some difficulties in reporting this category of applicants, because this data is provisional and it's sent rather quickly. The biggest population of Afghan unaccompanied minors was actually recorded in Austria, where 42% of all Afghans requesting for asylum are unaccompanied minors. And also in Germany, it's considerably higher, with a rate of 21%. On the right-hand side, there's a profile of applicants, of Afghan applicants, according to age and gender. The top chart actually shows the period of the past 12 months, and the chart below that shows the period of the 12 months before. In the last 12 months of available data, there were decreased applications for females and increased applications for males. The highest absolute increases refer to men aged from 18 to 34, while the highest absolute increase was distributed between children from up to 13 for both genders and women aged from 18 to 34. In this next slide, we will look closer into pending cases, pending asylum cases for Afghans in the EU+, as of the 30th of May of 2023. So we can see a clear, on the right-hand side, the bar charts shows an evolution over time. We can clearly see a rather high peak in 2016. After that, the numbers declined quite a bit. So I'll explain maybe first. So the light orange and the darker orange show pending cases in first instance, with the light orange giving an indication that this case has been pending for less than 6 months, and the dark orange giving an indication that this case has been pending for more than 6 months. The dotted line, the red dotted line, actually shows the total number of pending cases, so including the pending cases in second instance. We do have to add that we have much clearer view of pending cases in first instance than the pending cases in second instance, because our data is provisional, because Eurostat actually reports a total number of pending cases, not discriminating between first and second instance, and we have 2 different data sets showing this. So after this decrease during 2017 and the first half of 2018, the number of cases were stable for somewhat the first half of 2019, but then there was again a gradual increase at the end of 2019 and March 2020. To come to a new level of stability in 2022. So at the end of May 2023, there were some 70,000 cases open in first instance, so only in first instance, which was similar to the previous year, but about 71% more than in May 2021. So this is something you can see on the 3 bars on the left-hand side, showing a moment in time, the total number of cases in first instance in May 2023, May 2022, and May 2021. So you can clearly see an evolution here. During this last year, the age of the backlog continued to decrease. So you can see that in the relative difference between the dark orange and the lighter orange. The share of cases pending for more than 6 months decreased from 48% of the, no, 84%, sorry, of the total in May 2022 to 38% in May 2023. For your reference, in May 2022, 66% of all pending cases were open for more than 6 months, which is a quite high number. So for this latest data of May 2023, almost 3/4 of the stock of pending cases at first instance was assigned to one of 3 countries, either Germany, France, or Belgium. And half of those were in Germany. So like I said before, the red dotted line is the total number of pending cases. We get to this number by adding the Eurostat data to our own numbers. Overall, it follows a similar trend as the first instance, the total number of first instance. However, the wide gap between first and higher instances observed from 2017 got smaller, and for more than 2 years reflects the first instance trends. So you can see that by 2021, it kind of follows the same trend. At the end of May 2023, there were some 93,000 cases open at all instances, which is a bit less compared to a year earlier when it was 97,000 cases. On this next slide, we'll go into detail on first instance decisions issued to Afghans. So I'll first explain this chart to you. It's the evolution of the total number of decisions that were taken in the EU+. So the size of the bar chart shows you the number of decisions that were taken. And then the color coding is the type of decision. So it will be either refugee status, subsidiary protection, rejected, or rejected, one of those 3. For the purpose of this chart, any national protection will be counted as rejection, because we're looking at the EU recognition, so either the refugee status or the EU subsidiary protection. The red dotted line in this case actually shows the recognition rate on top of the number of decisions. So this slide shows the evolution according to decision type. In the past 12 months, there were about 92,000 decisions that were taken, which is a significant increase if you compare to the previous 12 months, where there were only about 65,000 decisions issued. The overall EU plus recognition rate for Afghans for these past 12 months was 53%, or 85% if we include national protection schemes in this calculation. It actually decreased from 70%. So without national protection, now it's 53%, decreasing from 70%. And over the past 12 months, we also see a fluctuation with a peak in May 2023. In terms of the number of first instance decisions issued by EU plus country, we see that the most decisions, again, were taken by Germany, about 50% of all decisions. France took about 20% of all decisions, followed by Belgium for 7%, Greece for 6%, and Switzerland for 5%. The recognition rates in the reporting period varies greatly, actually, across EU plus countries. In the top 10 countries, it ranged from only 33% recognition rate in Germany to between 90 and 100% for Austria, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, and Switzerland. So for these, I'm only counting countries that took more than 1,000 decisions, because comparing recognition rates with countries that took fewer decisions is a bit tricky. Almost all of the top 10 countries granted refugee status to a much higher degree than subsidiary protection, with the exception of Switzerland. Switzerland granted subsidiary protection to 80% of all cases. And also Austria granted a bit more subsidiary protection in 43% of all cases, only slightly, it's about at the same level, but it's only slightly below, actually, the 51% granted refugee status. For Germany, this low recognition rate of 33% can be explained again by national forms of protection, because if we include this, the recognition rate goes up to 96%. And we'll go into this recognition rate a bit more closely in the next slide. So I actually, the title, first instance decisions issued to Afghans and recognition rate in the EU plus. The title says top 10, but I actually changed it to top 5 to make it a bit more readable. So it's an evolution over time, the line chart, showing you the recognition rates. So the dark blue line shows you the overall recognition rates. And then the bubbles in different colors actually shows you the variance of the top 5 member states, each with their own color. So Belgium, we see it in pink, France is in green, Germany in yellow, Greece in gray, and Switzerland in blue. The position on the chart shows the level of the recognition rate, so closer to from 0% to 100%. So we'll go over some of these countries. In Germany, so the yellow bubbles like I said, the average recognition rate amounted to 33%. You can clearly see that it is generally well below the average, with the exception of the Q2 of 2023, where it's coming closer or even at the end slightly above the average. In France, in the green color, the recognition rate for Afghans was actually higher than the EU plus average. Again, except for late 2021, early 2022, and April and June 2023, when it was more similar to the overall trend. In Belgium, in the pink color, the recognition rate was actually well below the EU plus recognition rate, except for yet another period, December 2021, June, July 2022. Lastly, I will go over Greece in the gray color. They only account for 5% of all applications, but the recognition rate here was generally well above the EU plus average for most of the periods, except for the summer of 2021. So I'm mainly showing you this to make you aware that the recognition rates in different EU plus countries can vary significantly, and more so for certain countries than other countries. And for Afghanistan, this is certainly the case also because there are different protection schemes in these different countries. And with this, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. And obviously, if there are any questions, I will stay here to do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Nicola, for the very insightful presentation. We do, in fact, have a few questions and comments in the chat box. We'll go through them in the Q&A, but there's one in particular that was referring to your slide, I think. I'll go back to that slide. I think Sophia was asking whether these decisions are issued to Afghans in a third country or including people currently in Afghanistan. So perhaps if you want to clarify that.
These are decisions for persons that have asked for asylum in the specific countries alone. Okay, thank you. I think that's clear, but please, if you still have any question, please put them in the chat box and we'll go through them in the Q&A session. All right, thanks again, Nicola. And last but not least, we're now moving on to our final speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Berikulov Kobil Gulamovich, head of the Department for Organizing and Conducting Census Processes, the Agency of Statistics under the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, to deliver his presentation. Mr. Gulamovich has been working at the agency for more than 17 years, during which he has held various positions. We also have kind support from Bajan to provide consecutive interpretations as well. So I'll hand the floor over to Mr. Gulamovich for his presentation. Bajan, you would like to take control?
Разрешите сейчас передать слово господину Кобылы Гуламовичу Бердикулову. Господин Бердикулов является директором департамента по организации и проведению процессов переписи населения Агентства по статистике при президенте Республики Узбекистан. Господин Бердикулов работает более 17 лет на разных позициях, должностях в этой области. И для господина Бердикулова, Балжан, сотруднику ВКБ, он будет делать сегодня перевод, и вы можете переходить к своей презентации. Господин Бердикулов.
Спасибо. Добрый день, уважаемые участники встречи. Я извиняюсь, но все-таки камера что-то по технически не получилось включить. У меня включен, но, по-моему, у вас не видно мой вид.
Good afternoon, good day, dear participants of this event. I'm very pleased to welcome you. I'm very sorry, but my camera seems to have technical problems. I turned it on, but unfortunately you cannot see me. So please I apologize for it. Да, господин Бердикулов?
Я очень рад вас всех приветствовать. Позвольте, коротко расскажу о вопросах переписи населения Республики Узбекистан, в том числе, в частности, в вопросах про лица без гражданства и беженцев.
I'm very glad to greet you all at this event, and let me briefly share with you some information about conducting census in the Republic of Uzbekistan, and specifically about inclusion of stateless people and refugees in the census.
В Республике Узбекистан планируется провести перепись населения в 2024 году, но решение пока не принято. Но, несмотря на это, подготовка к переписи населения не прекращается, а планомерно продолжается.
In the Republic of Uzbekistan, the census is planned to be conducted in 2024, but the final decision is yet to be taken. But nevertheless, we are preparing for it, and step-by-step preparation is taking place for this event.
В 2021 году была проведена пробная перепись в 4 регионах республики. Для пробной переписи были разработаны специальные переписные листы.
In 2021, a pilot census was conducted in 4 regions of the Republic, and in order to conduct these pilot census, we have developed special census form, questionnaire.
При разработке форм переписных листов были изучены рекомендации конференции европейских статистиков по проведению переписи населения и жилищного фонда 2020 года.
While developing the census questionnaire, we also learned the recommendations of the European Union statistics census recommendations of 2020.
А также рекомендации по включению модельного блока вопросов по трудовой деятельности и миграции в переписные листы государств, членов Евразийского экономического союза при проведении национальных переписей населения раунда 2020 года.
Also, we explored other regional models on including such questions, on reflecting such questions in the census as employment, migration, developed under the Eurasian Economic Union as of 2020.
В форме переписных листов для пробного переписи состоит из 5 форм. Форма вторая как раз по индивидуальным вопросам. Данная форма включает в себя 23 основных вопросов и 13 подвопросов касательно основных демографических и социально-экономических характеристик населения.
In general, the census questionnaire has 5 forms. The second form has 23 main questions and 13 sub-questions, and these 13 questions are in order to know about economic, social details, information of the population.
В данной форме также включены вопросы касательно гражданства и лиц без гражданства, а также о лицах вынужденно переселившихся и беженцах.
And in this form, we also have questions in order to know the status of the respondent. So it's a stateless status, or citizen of another country, or citizen of the Republic of Uzbekistan. And also we have a sub-question in order to know the status, if the person is a forcibly displaced person, or if he or she has a refugee status.
В ходе пробной переписи в 2021 году все опрашиваемые респонденты ответили на вопрос о вынужденном переселении. Это означало, что на вопрос о вынужденном переселении и статусе беженца ответили все респонденты, в том числе имеющие гражданство Республики Узбекистан.
Это, господин Бердыкулов, я поменяла следующий слайд. Это как раз про это, да?
Да.
So during the census, during the pilot census in 2021, so there were some misunderstanding among the respondents. So all of the respondents answered to the question on the refugee and forcibly displaced status, including those who are citizens of the Republic of Uzbekistan. So there was some kind of misunderstanding among the respondents.
По рекомендациям международных экспертов и согласно нормам международного права, гражданин Республики Узбекистан не может быть беженцем в своей стране, поэтому под вопрос 9.1 планируется задавать только иностранным гражданам и лицам без гражданства.
So in line with the international, in line with the recommendations of the international experts, as well as the norms of the international law, the citizens of the Republic of Uzbekistan cannot be refugees within their own country. Therefore, it was decided to ask the question 9.1 on the refugee status or forcibly moved persons only to foreigners in Uzbekistan and stateless persons in Uzbekistan.
Такой подход также уменьшит объем работы переписчиков. В связи с этим в качестве решения добавили дополнительный указатель на переход, где респонденты, ответившие на предыдущий вопрос о гражданстве, что они являются гражданами Республики Узбекистан, на следующий вопрос.
Можете еще раз, господин Бердыкулов, немножечко?
В связи с этим в качестве решения добавили дополнительный указатель на переход, где респонденты, ответившие на предыдущий вопрос о гражданстве, что они являются гражданами Республики Узбекистан, на следующий вопрос.
So in order to improve the quality of the forms and of the census, it was decided to add a kind of a guidance to the question number 9. So if the person responds that he is a citizen of the Republic of Uzbekistan, additional kind of guidance to the question will be opened. So he will not answer to the following question on the refugee status or for a displaced person.
Многие респонденты не понимали термин вынужденного переселенца. Под этим термином респонденты понимали переселение в связи с сносами домов, природной катастрофой, но только причину не связанной с политической.
Many of the respondents didn't understand the question on forcibly displaced persons during the pilot census. So they were thinking that this question is about their houses which were removed or displacement due to some kind of climate, this kind of different situations, climate-related situations. And they didn't understand that the question was related to their political or other politically related questions, situations.
Исходя из этого, решили во время обучения переписного персонала четко объяснить разницу в причине вынужденного переселения. Кроме того, на планшетных устройствах добавить всплывающее окно с объяснениями по терминологиям и другим понятиям.
Therefore, in order to improve the quality of the census, it was additionally clarified, and the enumerators were additionally trained on this question. They were explained, and a pop-up window was added due to the census questionnaire form, which explains what is the forced displacement and refugee. So it additionally explains the sub-question.
Помимо того, большинство респондентов путали понятия вынужденные переселенцы и беженец или думали, что эти понятия одинаковые. Чтобы не допустить этого, решили переформулировать вопрос и оставить только вопрос о беженцах.
And in addition to that, many of the respondents were confused between the difference of the forcibly displaced person and the refugee. In order to overcome this confusion, it was decided to reformulate this question and leave just one option, refugee.
Исходя из вышесказанного, мы уверены, что во время всеобщей переписи населения собрать необходимую полную и достоверную информацию о беженцах.
And based on above said, through this census, we are aiming to collect comprehensive and accurate information about the refugees.
Коротко у меня все. Огромное спасибо за внимание.
And thank you very much. This is it about my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Badikulov, and thank you, Bajan Kwas, for the presentation and for the interpretation. With that, we've come to the end of the three presentations. Thank you all presenters for sharing, with us this insightful details and updates on what you're working on and what the status of forced displaced population and stateless people are in the region. We've come to the Q&A session, and I believe, have some question in the chat, but I'll also give the floor to participants who are attending this Stats Cafe at the moment to raise their hand and ask the question directly to the speakers as well. So you have that option as well. So for those who have any question, please feel free to raise your hand and ask the questions now. If not, there is a question in the chat, which was some time ago. It was asked by Maria Woloshkevich. She is saying that it's not relevant to Afghanistan, but it is interesting to see that there have been no applications for asylum from Ukrainians in the EU. So I think this question was asked during Nicola's presentation. So perhaps Nicola, you would like to provide some clarification on that.
Yes. Well, first of all, that's not true. There were actually applications from Ukrainians in the EU+. It was not showing on my slide because I'm just showing the top asylum applications. But it was mentioned in the comments as well. That is mainly because for Ukrainians, there's a different scheme within the EU. Plus, there's the Temporary Protection Directive that was launched. And to get this protection status, you actually only have to have either the Ukrainian nationality, prove that you live in Ukraine. So it's much easier to attain than the refugee status. This temporary protection status has been prolonged year after year, and it's still active at the time. And in total, there right now are actually about 4 million Ukrainians living in the EU+ under this status. So it's a very considerable number. But like I said, it's a temporary status. So maybe once this status ends, we will see a higher degree of Ukrainians actually applying for international protection.
Thank you, Nicola, for the clarification. Colleagues, if you have questions, please either type them in the chat box or raise your hands and ask the question now. I should also mention that if you have any questions following the Stats Cafe, you're more than welcome to reach out to the organizing team, myself and the team, or you can also reach out to the speakers directly for follow-up questions as well if you don't have any questions now. There is another sort of comment and question from Sophia in the chat box, and I'll just read it out. She said, as a follow-up on my Afghanistan question, I am a caseworker for severely at-risk Afghan women's rights defenders, currently in Afghanistan supporting their relocation. What EU protection schemes, including UNHCR referrals, are in place for vulnerable people still stuck in Afghanistan? I know that the UK was supposed to have a pathway with UNHCR referrals, but barristers have told me only 1 or 2 people have been referred. Is the UNHCR still making referrals in Pakistan? Best option for Afghans to obtain biometrics? What are the quotas and which countries are people being referred to? So I believe this question goes out to Nicola, but other speakers, if you would like to jump in and support, then you're more than welcome to do so as well.
Well, first of all, of course, UK is no longer within the EU, so the resettlement schemes from the UK I'm not really aware of anymore. But the thing you're talking about here is mainly resettlement and resettlement schemes, and the answer is yes, there are still resettlement schemes that start from the UN, that are proposed from UNHCR and that are taken in by the EU. But actually, EUAA as an agency, we don't organize resettlements. We do have a resettlement facility in Istanbul, but that's just to facilitate for the EU member states themselves. So we, as an agency, don't organize a resettlement. But I can reply that there are still quite a number of resettlement schemes, which have been a bit lower since the pandemic, but they are planning on bringing quite a few of those back. And it's not just resettlement, we have humanitarian admission and humanitarian corridors as well, but all of those schemes have the same purpose, to actually bring people, to bring more vulnerable people from Afghanistan to the EU without them having to come to us to ask for asylum.
Thank you, Nicola. There's another sort of clarifying question on EU. I think the person who asked the question was talking about EU plus, and it's essentially, I mean, if I don't get it wrong, it's essentially the EU plus additional partner countries. There's a list online that you may refer to as well. Another question from Alejandro, and would like to ask Mr. Gulamovic. So grateful if Bajan could help translate this one. And the question: if the International Stats on Stateless Person (IROS) developed by EGRIS help in reformulating the questions in the questionnaire, census questionnaire, which were identified as challenging during the 2021 pilot?
Господин Бердикулов, в чате спросили один вопрос касательно вашего выступления. Вопрос звучит следующим образом. Помогли ли вам рекомендации международные рекомендации по сбору статистики по лицам без гражданства, которые были разработаны ЭГРИС? Эти рекомендации помогли ли вам, чтобы переформулировать те вопросы после проведения переписи населения в 2021 году в пилотных 4 регионах Узбекистана? Насколько эти рекомендации были использованы, как они помогли переформулированию сложных вопросов? Спасибо.
Спасибо за вопрос. Да, мы после проведения пробного переписи мы изучали все международные рекомендации, в том числе рекомендации ИГРИС. И нам очень помогло это, чтобы переформулировать и усовершенствовать вопросника вопросов о беженцах и лицах без гражданства.
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, after conducting the pilot census in 2021, we resorted to the recommendation of the IGRIS on international stats on including stateless persons and refugees. And those recommendations, they were very effective and they assisted us to reformulate and improve questions on refugees and stateless persons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barikulov and Baljan. So there's one sort of clarifying question from Sapideb, and it's just asking for clarification whether the data and stats presented by Nicholas can be used even for academic reasons. So Nicola, over to you.
Yes, so like I said in the beginning, I'm presenting numbers from two different sources, actually. Some of them came from Eurostat, which is public, which is all on their website. So that's public data that you can do with whatever. But to have the most up-to-date data, because their data obviously usually comes a few months late, to have the most up-to-date data, we used our own data. And we're actually in the process of making some of that data public. But right now, most of the data that I presented is not public, especially the data of specifically one member state, because very often they want to have their own data in their own official publication. And we also have that data before their publication to just for operational reasons, but we are then not allowed to publish this. But if you have specific questions on which data you can use for academic purposes, you can always contact me and I can refer you to the correct source.
Thank you, Nicola. Colleagues, I don't know if you have any more questions, and please do put them in the chat box. If not, oh, okay, I see that Charles raised your hand. So, Charles.
Hi, can I also ask a question? The question is to Mr. Barikulov, and thank you, Baljan, for translation. So my question is regarding to the nationality questions in the census. So when the enumerator asks respondents to provide answers for the nationality, is there a way to verify what they said? Like, did the enumerator check some ID card or just take what the respondent said? Thank you.
Господин Бердикулов, вопрос хотели задать касательно также вашей презентации, касательно формы номер 2, вопрос 9, где спрашивает у респондента касательно его национальности. Когда делает опрос и спрашивает данный вопрос, господин Чао спрашивает, интервьюер, он на словах как бы фиксирует ответ, записывает ответ, или он также проверяет, спрашивает респондента также показать какой-нибудь документ, удостоверяющий личность, чтобы еще раз проверить как бы наличие такого статуса, гражданства или лица без гражданства. Спасибо.
Спасибо, вопрос, очень хороший вопрос. Да, насчет национальности, ну, в общем, по всем вопросам у нас есть закон Республики Узбекистан о переписи населения. Там четко указано, что при проведении переписи населения все вопросники заполняются только со слов респондента. Никакие документы не требуются. Поэтому в 2021 году тоже перепись провели в таком порядке. И все вопросники, в том числе вопрос национальности, заполнялись только со слов респондента.
Thank you very much for the good question. For all the questions of the census, there is a special kind of legislation on the census of the Republic of Uzbekistan, and in line with this legislation, for all the questions of the census, when the enumerator asks the questions, the answers are written down from the words of the respondents. So no ID, no document kind of is asked to validate the answers of the respondents. It is according to the legislation of the Republic of Uzbekistan. And in 2021, when there was a pilot census conducted in Uzbekistan, also answers of the respondents were registered, were recorded from their words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barikulov and Bajan. So I believe we are running out of questions, at least for the time being. But as mentioned previously, if you have any follow-up questions at any stage after this session, you're more than welcome to reach out to the organizing team or reach out to the speakers directly for answers and clarification. With that, we've come to the end of today's Stats Cafe. I hope it was a very enjoyable session for you all, and I hope that you've learned a great deal from our speakers. On behalf of the organizing team, I'd like to thank the speaker for taking the time off your busy schedule to share with us this insights, you know, and knowledge for us, you know, to use in our work and so on. And also thanks to everyone for joining us here today as well. I hope to see you all at the next Stats Cafe session. But until then, have a wonderful week ahead, and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for organizing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Welcome.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.